So another weekend goes by, and more serious questions about the stability of President Trump. Over the weekend, Donald Trump used some horrible dog whistles about mostly black Baltimore being infested. And of course, people reacted to that. And we'll discuss that separately. And I'm thinking my take on it may be a little different than much of what has been around over the last couple of days. But once again, in the big picture, Donald Trump is reacting extraordinarily erratically to the growing reality that the congressional push for impeachment has been reinvigorated. A judge has now been asked to release grand jury evidence from Robert Mueller's investigation. More than 100 Democrats in the House now support an impeachment inquiry against Donald Trump, which I am also going to talk about later. And Donald Trump went on a nearly 24-hour tweet storm, completely unhinged. We've seen 2-hour Twitter storms. We've seen even like 10 or 12-hour ones, if I recall correctly. But this was something new altogether. Now, can anybody take the phone away from Donald Trump? It doesn't seem like that's the case. Can anybody talk sense into Donald Trump about these tweets? No, I don't know that it's necessarily seen as a problem, because even though these tweets that I'm about to show you expose that we have an unstable president, are dozens of tweets where social media has now become the equivalent for Donald Trump of a guy ranting in the subway while urinating under the stairs. I am going to make the case that actually these tweets serve a purpose for Donald Trump aside from the content, which is to continue setting the agenda and the narrative at the exclusion of other topics. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So let's get to some of the tweets that Donald Trump sent out. This is just a sampling. Donald Trump starting with, from the bottom up in chronological order. Congressman Elijah Cummings has been a brutal bully, shouting and screaming at the great men and women of Border Patrol about conditions at the southern border, when actually his Baltimore district is far worse and more dangerous. His district is considered the worst in the USA, as proven last week during a congressional tour. The border is clean, efficient, and well run, just very crowded. Cummings' district is a disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. Why is so much money sent to the Elijah Cummings district when it is considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? No human being would want to live there. Where is all this money going? How much is stolen? Investigate this corrupt mess immediately. And then continuing, consideration is being given to declaring Antifa, the gutless radical left whack jobs who go around hitting only non-fighters, people over the heads with baseball bats, a major organization of terror, along with MS-13 and others, would make it easier for police to do their jobs. Going on, the Democrats were trying mightily to revive the badly and irrevocably tarnished witch hunt hoax until Robert Mueller put on the greatest display of ineptitude and incompetence that the halls of Congress has ever seen. Continuing, the Dems are now coming out of shock from the terrible Mueller performance and are starting to spin impeachment all over again. How sick and disgusting and bad for our country. Such a big victory for our country. Supreme Court approves Trump administration plan to use military funds for the wall. Skipping over a few, you'll see that Donald Trump continued this rant, saying, "We gave Nadler and his Trump-hating Dems the complete Mueller report. We didn't have to, and even Mueller himself, but now that both were a total bust, they say it wasn't good enough. Nothing will ever be good enough for them. Witch hunt, no collusion, no obstruction, total exoneration, Democrat witch hunt." Then he retweeted a bunch of Fox News videos and continued tweeting about various quotes regarding Robert Mueller's testimony, talking again about Congressman Elijah Cummings, who's been able to do so little for the people of Baltimore. Statistically, Baltimore ranks last in almost every major category. Cummings has done nothing but milk Baltimore dry, but the public is getting wise to the bad job that he's doing. And then going into conspiracies. The real collusion, the conspiracy, the crime, was between the Clinton campaign, the DNC, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and many others, including Comey, McCabe, Lisa Page, and her lover, Orr, and his wonderful. And then he continues to go on with that, getting into more conspiracies about the Democrats are doing the Russians' dirty work and on and on and on in truly stunning fashion. And then lastly, quoting random people from Fox and Friends, including, you'll notice at the top of your screen, Pete Hegseth, who said Elijah Cummings has had his chance to address it, crime and conditions in Baltimore for decades, and he hasn't gotten it done. So endless, endless, a total of nearly 30 tweets. This is the president of the United States. Aside from the content of his tweets, which is insane, aside from the amount of time that he's spending tweeting, the level of rage that this man is exhibiting towards just everyone is a sign that Donald Trump is very worried. If and when Donald Trump's finances really start to be dug into by Democrats in the House, and we're getting very close to that, I believe that Donald Trump is going to go to the next level. This is a level which we still have not seen. And to be very clear, this is going to be a level where all bets are off. I mean, is Trump going to start actually calling people the N-word? I don't know. He might. He just might. I don't know whether Trump has the restraint not to do almost anything that we might imagine if and when it gets to that point. Now, there is another hypothesis that I was reading about, which might explain these extended tweet storms by Donald Trump. It may be that the legal staff, either personal lawyers or White House lawyers, have started to tell Trump, listen, there's a chance you get indicted if you don't get reelected in 2020. I don't know how they'd couch it. I don't know what language they would use to explain this to Donald Trump. It's all still very speculative, but it is not outside the realm of possibility that Donald Trump is starting to be warned by his own legal team internally about, listen, Mueller is right by the letter of the law. You can be indicted after leaving the White House. Winning in 2020 would be a sort of insurance policy. He likes to use that term, but it would be an insurance policy for him against possible indictment. If you think Donald Trump is losing it now, tweeting 30 times in 18 hours or something like that, just remember that between now and 2020, there are any number of things that could happen that will drastically escalate Donald Trump beyond what we've already seen. And for his sake, you'd think someone on his staff would work to take away Twitter access, but it's maybe easier said than done. As we've known, as we've reported before, and as we've known based on a number of different reports, Trump will not even turn his phone over for a security screening by intelligence agencies. So 2020 Trump is a Trump that will be running, believing that it may take a win in 2020 to keep him potentially out of prison. Okay. That is going to be a far crazier Trump than we have ever seen. And now I want to focus in a little more specifically on the Baltimore tweets.